I have been making desk setups on YouTube for what seems like forever now, and I've never made a video which pushes all of my knowledge into one space. So these are my top 10 tips on how to make a really beautiful desk setup and office or studio space. And hey, if you're new here, my name's Tom. I talk about tech in a more kind of calm and relaxed manner. I'm not here to shout at you, so let's get into the tips. Okay, so for tip 1, you've really got to do your research. You can't start with no idea of where you're going, and doing a little bit of research is going to really help. The best place to start doing this, luckily, is Instagram. Most of us have Instagram and probably use it too much, but you can use it as a creative tool. What I like to do is use the explore page and type in desk setup or office tour or studio tour or art room. The important thing here is you need to start saving them into their own folder. Don't just like them and forget them. Hit the save button, create a new folder and call it setup inspiration or something like that. Reddit is really good for this as well. There's Reddit battle stations, which is a bit more gamer focused, but that's got some desk setups which are really good to look at. I like Mac setups as well. These are a bit more design focused, which look really good. Workspace is another one which I check relatively often, which has got some nice setups in there as well. It's worth getting a Pinterest account if you haven't already, even though it's a bit of an ad hellscape, and looking through there for desk setups, because Pinterest is very good at collecting lots of different things and putting that into one space. And of course, YouTube is a perfect place for it. Type in desk setups and you'll find videos like probably the one you're watching right now, but also a huge amount of setups on there too. One of the best things you can do when you're doing this research is find a kind of North Star image. So if you find one desk setup that you really resonate with, that can be kind of your guiding image, and then whenever you go to look to buy something like a desk or a chair or whatever it is, you can look at that photo and go, would that desk fit in this setup? And if the answer is yes, then awesome. And if the answer is no, you might think twice about whether it really fits what you're going for. And remember, while you're doing this research, don't just save desk spaces, save rooms that you like, or pictures that you like, or art frames that you like, or just vibes that you like, because they serve as really good inspiration as well. Okay, for number 2, something that's helped me a huge amount is sketching out what you want your space to look like. And trust me, you do not have to be good at drawing at this. I'm not at all, but giving yourself a piece of pen and a paper or an iPad or a Mac or whatever you've got and taking time to sketch out what you might like to see in your space is really helpful. When we moved into this studio setup, that was one of the first things we did. We did like kind of a top-down look of where we wanted everything. And since then, I've done it loads. Whenever I'm trying to plan out what frames look like on the wall, I'll try and sketch them out as best as I can, or even things that I want to see in the studio. For example, at the moment, I'd really like a retro gaming setup, and I've got an idea of what a cabinet might look like. So I've just taken the time to kind of sketch out what I think it would look like and how it would fit in here. So I really recommend doing that as well. Okay, for point 3, let's talk practicals and think about the desk. And my best advice with a desk is go big. Having a big desk gives everything space to breathe, and it also gives you loads of room to spread out and work if you need to. So you could move your keyboard away and do some writing or painting or whatever you need to do, and then return it to being kind of like a computer focused desk afterwards. For me, it's boosted my productivity and just made it feel like I've got space to do things rather than just feeling very cramped and contained. And when it comes to buying the desk, there's loads of companies that sell complete desks now with standing legs and everything like that. And you can go to those companies, that's fine. I've always been a fan of building my own from pieces from IKEA, so mine's a tabletop with some legs that I bought from Amazon. You just want to get something which is high quality and it's going to last you a long time, and that's usually dictated by price, unfortunately. My main advice is to make sure there's enough width there. My desk is only 60 centimeters, which isn't that wide, it's just about enough. But if I could go higher, I would. So I would look at something that's at least 70 centimeters wide or bigger. And that's going to give you more room to your monitor back as well. And I'm not saying that small desks don't work. I've seen lots of really nice small desks, which people get a lot of work done and they look really nice too. But in my experience, having the bigger one has been better. Okay, moving on to number 4, and this is one of the best upgrades you can make to your monitor situation. Most monitors look pretty gross out of the box. They're made with relatively cheap materials, and the plastic stands they come on are usually disgusting. I don't like them. The only people that seem to be able to do it well is Apple, and there's a few Samsung and high-end LG ones which kind of look okay, but most people would do better off by buying yourself a monitor arm. And the good news is these are really cheap. You can buy a monitor arm that's around 10 to 20 pounds, which is very similar to what I had before I had a studio display, and it works wonders. It gives your monitor this wonderful floating feeling, and it gets rid of that big hunk of cheap plastic which usually holds it up. It also lets you raise your monitor to eye level, which is good for your posture and general health as well. One other benefit of monitor arms is you can attach other things to it. I used to have my iPad linked up to a monitor arm, but you can attach things like microphones and lights, and it's just a very modular experience, but it really is one of the best upgrades you can make to your desk. I'm also including a desk shelf in this tip as well because I think it goes hand in hand with the monitor, and I really like these. A desk shelf is the perfect way to make your desk feel a bit more complete and a lot more tidy as well. You get so much room within a shelf to put knickknacks and little bits and bobs which often make your desk seem very messy into a neat place. And if your monitor can't be mounted onto an arm or it doesn't have VESA compatibility, then this is also a good way of bringing it up to the right height. I understand these might not be for everybody, but in my eyes they just make everything look more complete, and they also kind of help frame your monitor as well. I just think it looks great. Also, if you are spending time making a nice desk setup, you'll want to look good and sound great on camera too, and that's where today's sponsor, OBSBOT and the Tiny 3 comes in. So most built-in webcams look something like this. The picture quality is a bit grainy, it's not very good in no light, and the sound quality is probably okay at best, but this is the OBSBOT Tiny 3, and you can probably tell immediately not only how much better it looks, but how much cleaner and crisper the sound is too. As the name suggests, this is really small, doesn't take up too much space on your desk or monitor, but if you do want to move it around, it pops off easily from its quick release magnetic stand. The biggest upgrade here though is the audio. The Tiny 3 has spatial microphones built in, so I don't have to worry about plugging in an external microphone or sitting in a specific spot. It just picks up my voice nice and clearly every time. The video quality is excellent too. It shoots in 4K with a large sensor, giving you some natural depth of field. It handles tricky lighting really well, and you can enable AI tracking, which is great if you're presenting something, or if you're like me and you just move around a lot while you're talking. There's also voice commands built in, so you can tell it to zoom in, track you, turn itself on or off without touching anything, which is genuinely useful if you're in and out of meetings all day. So if you are thinking about upgrading your webcam to something which looks as good as the rest of your setup, I've left a link in the description below, and a huge thank you goes to OBSBOT for sponsoring this video. Okay, next up is a pet peeve of mine, and it's another way to make your desk look way better, is please don't use a mouse pad. They rarely look good, and some of them are just outright abysmal. A much better alternative is getting a desk mat. Now you can go really big here if you want to, or get something relatively small. I quite like the small one. These don't only give you good coverage for your mouse, but they also help frame the stuff on your desk so it just looks a little bit more complete. I quite like the simple grey felt style, but you can pretty much get them in any colour and combination that you like. But my big recommendation here is you can still do this wrong. Some people sell these overly complicated ones with big pictures on them or complex patterns, and to me a keyboard is already complicated enough in terms of how it looks, so if you put something complicated underneath, it just looks like a total mess. I would go with a single block color or something with a very simple pattern, so then it doesn't conflict with your keyboard. But usually every desk mat is much nicer than the mouse pad, and it's definitely a heavy recommend from me to make your desk look much nicer. Okay, number 6, another really important one, and one which may drive people wild, is you need to cable manage. I know, it's painful, it's annoying, and it's one of the things that takes a long time, but once you get rid of all the cables on your desk setup and tuck them neatly away, the whole setup just looks so much better, and in a weird way, it will kind of unclutter your mind so you can just get straight to work. And I know that sounds weird, but it really makes a huge difference, or at least it does to me. And once again, this is a cheap upgrade you can make, which just makes so much sense. The system I have is from Amazon. It's just a really simple bit of white trunking which sticks to the bottom of your desk, and I just tuck all of the cables inside of it. A pro tip you can do here is stick an outlet to the bottom of your desk so you can have all the plugs in there, and then you can just have one cable running down going into the plug. That makes everything nicer. There's so many solutions out there for this, but trust me, it really is going to be one of the best upgrades you can make to your space and to your desk. Okay, my next tip may be controversial to some, but I really don't like it. It's RGB. I very rarely think RGB looks good. Truly nothing says I have no taste than a decked out PC lit up like a Christmas tree with full RGB glowing in different colours. And it just screams of that gamer aesthetic, which I genuinely don't think anybody likes. I think they think that's what gamers look like, and then they end up buying it, and it's just kind of synonymous with desk setups. I also think companies use it as a way to doll up a pretty average or poor device by kind of saying it's RGB enabled. It's usually rubbish and it usually looks rubbish. And of course that is my personal taste. There are some ways you can make it look nice. I think having a small strip at the back of your desk glowing one color can look okay. And on the back of a monitor, it gives you a little bit of a glow, which can be quite nice. But overall, I think it usually makes things look worse. So avoid it as best as you can. Alright, that's enough talking about the desk itself. Let's talk about the space. And for tip number 8, I think the most important thing you can do in any space or any desk setup or any room that you're designing is to put some of your own personality into it. So put something that you really love on display. Books, gaming, guitars, anime, keyboards, films, whatever you love, it's very important that you have some of that in your setup. But the key here is to really not overdo it. For example, if you're a Nintendo Amiibo collector and you've got a full shelf of them, that usually looks pretty gross. But you could grab a couple of your favorites from there and dot them around the space, and that really shows off your personality, in my opinion, in a lot more subtle and engaging way. Because when someone sees it, they're like, oh cool, this is an inkling from Splatoon, and you can talk about it for a while, which is really nice. And look, I'm a huge Nintendo and Studio Ghibli fan, but when you come into this space, that's not the first thing you think of at all. But when you look a little bit closer, you'll notice the small Link amiibo, the Pokemon skateboard decks I have on the wall, the nods to the Studio Ghibli films I love, but they're nice accents rather than huge main pieces. And you can go even further with this. Things I really like to do is to get film posters from different areas. So Japanese film posters are often very different to the ones we get here in the UK. Or you can get posters which reference things within stuff. So I've got a Fret Neville Midnight frame up there from The Office, which is a series I like. And one which is probably really abstract is I've got a Mario Kart frame up there, which is from Peach Beach, which is a level within Mario Kart. So you'd have to kind of really know about that stuff if you know it. For anybody else looking at it, it's just a nice frame of, a nice beach. It doesn't mean much more than that. And I think having those small nods to things adds layers of personality rather than having this kind of shrine to your hobby. For tip number 9, I'm going to talk about everything which goes on the walls, which I think is a really easy area to just ignore, but it's actually one of the best things you can do with your space to make it look way better. For me, these fall into 2 categories, your decoration and utility, and they often work best when they're mixed in together and you can't really tell the difference. One of my favourite things to do here is to build a gallery wall. You've probably seen a lot of these around houses, but I think it works really well, especially in a creative space. Now, my best advice here is please don't just buy some random art that you saw in IKEA or something which you just saw in a home store locally. Find an artist on Instagram that's producing really cool stuff and buy from their store. Help support another creative, or go to a local market and get something handmade by someone down there. It's the perfect place to really kind of have your own thing on there. Once you've got a bunch of stuff, you can either sketch out how you want it to look on the wall, or you can usually just start putting them up and picking where you think things should go. That's usually how I end up doing things when it comes to an art gallery, but that's how I do it. Having a variation of shelving on the walls works really well too. This can not only be practical, like you can put your cameras and lenses on there or your art supplies or whatever you need, but it also doubles up for decoration too. And decorating a shelf weirdly is quite tricky to do unless you've got a real eye for it. But I like to think of the rule of 3, so 3 things grouped together, and also having a mix of horizontal and vertical things on the shelf really helps to balance things out. Also, you can hang things off it like a plant which hangs down. That's a great thing to do for shelving too. A good thing I like to think about as well when I'm designing a wall space is to think about texture as well. Having a gallery of frames is great and having a shelf is nice too, but it's actually the difference in textures which really help. I've got some bag pegs on the wall, and the texture of those bags is obviously completely different to like the plastic of a frame or the wood of a frame, so it helps break things up. I've also got a pennant flag which helps add a bit of difference. I've got that Dalton wall clock which sticks out very specifically from the wall. But one of my favourite kind of texture adding things are these pegboards from IKEA. I've had them for a really long time. They're called the Skadis pegboards, and I've actually got my keyboards on them. And this just gives you a whole way to design something on there. On top of my coffee station, they're full of cups and they've all got different textures to them. And I also hang things on there from various trips and stuff as well, which I really like. So it's worth thinking about textures too, because often when you mix them up, it just makes everything feel a little bit nicer. It will take a while to kind of fill the walls right and make it look how exactly you want to, but it's all part of the process and it's definitely worth doing. Okay, my final kind of official tip in this is plants. And I know it's a little bit cliche whenever you see like a tech YouTuber especially, or someone who's got like a nice home or whatever, they're full of plants, and it's usually for good reason. Again, I find this is quite tricky to get right and it's easy to overdo it or to underdo it, but plants generally add a nice feeling of life and they can really make a space look a little bit more inviting to kind of sit and work in. Once again, I find these better as nice accents to your space. I've got a few which hang off the shelf which are really nice. Those are called pathos plants. They're really good to add to your space. And I also have one on the desk which I use for a prop all the time. But we've also got one larger one in here which is actually fake because we had a real one in here and it just kind of died quite quickly. So you can also have 1 or 2 fake ones which add a lot as well. I don't think I've like cracked it on plants yet, but they are well worth getting some. My other main advice here as well is, even though IKEA sell them, and I keep talking about IKEA in this video, don't go to IKEA and just buy them there. Please go somewhere local where they're alive and you can see that they're well, and you get the choice of a better plant as well. Like any garden centre is going to have a nicer version of what you're after than IKEA. Or go to a dedicated website because they often have plants which are in much better condition. We got a few from Patch here in the UK, which is a nice website for it. They are a little bit more expensive, but the plants generally last a lot longer. So those are my main top 10 tips, and I'm pretty certain if you follow those, you'll at least get a much better idea of how you want your space to look. But I also have this kind of bonus section because there were loads of mini tips which didn't really fit into everything else. So I'm just going to spool them off quickly. The first of those is to tidy up. Again, another boring tip, but one of the biggest things which makes your space look nicer and show that you've got some control over it is to just tidy up. And look, you don't have to be tidy all the time. Trust me, I'm not. When I'm filming in here, it turns into a complete state. It's horrible over there at the moment. But generally speaking, having a place for everything and just tidying up towards the end of the day makes such a huge difference. And I'm genuinely a big believer in letting yourself be messy in spaces too. You'll notice I have these must-have-made lockers around, but the one in the corner over there is just full of rubbish. I just throw stuff in there when I'm not sure what else to do with it because I don't always have the time to clean up. So give yourself permission to be messy, but in certain spaces. Another bonus tip is don't push everything to the side of the room. If you're working on a desk setup, it's really easy to push the desk up against the wall and to design it around there. That's fine. But then you'll find you want to push everything else up against the wall as well. And that makes it feel like you're kind of walking into a corridor. Now, I haven't solved this yet, but my little guitar zone kind of pokes out from the side of the wall and it gives the room like a different dimension. In the same way like a corner sofa makes like a room feel a bit more cozy, it's worth trying to get a grip on that as well, because when everything's up against the wall, it can look very corporate, and obviously looking directly at a wall isn't the nicest thing. And the final small tip is think about lighting as well. It's hard for me to comment on that because I'm a YouTube video creator, so I have to have these big video lights in here all the time. But if you're not and you're just working in a space, investing in a nice lamps and lighting is much better than what comes from above. Lighting from above not only usually looks horrible and orange, but it gives you these kind of big droops under your eyes, and anytime you go on a video call, you'll just look permanently tired. So having a couple nice lamps instead of one big ceiling light is going to make it much nicer too. Sorry, and lastly, this won't happen overnight. You're not going to watch this video and suddenly have the keenest eye ever on how to make a beautiful space. I didn't. I'll go back and look at my old desk setups and office spaces. I often cringe at them, and I'm sure I'll probably cringe at this in a few years' time too, because your taste and style will change over time. So don't beat yourself up if you can't get the look right exactly. When you iterate on it over and over again, you'll eventually get a space which is truly your own, looks truly beautiful, and it'll be a place where you'll just be so happy to work in, or to do whatever else it is that you need to do. Before I go, I'll leave you with a bunch of creators who I've followed for a long time. They help me with my setups, and they're probably worth checking out as well if you're watching this video. First up is Matthew Encina. His setups are beautiful and they really kind of show off his DIY skills. Great kind of light mode setups, which I'm a big fan of. On the flip side of that is Olia. He does these kind of more dark and moody kind of tech focused setups, which are nice and minimal too. There's Maisie Lee as well, who does these really kind of cozy and work-based setups as well, which got a touch of gaming in, which are really nice. And another one I'm a fan of is another tech YouTuber called Andreas. His is kind of like tech maximalism, and I think it's done really nicely. He does RGB well for once. And I've got a bunch of other Instagram creators as well, which I really like. So I'll do my best to link all of those in the description below so you can check them out as well. And of course, I've got a few videos on here too. So if you want to check out what I've made, follow me on Instagram or look at my desk setups playlist, which I'll link here too. The last video I actually made was a complete studio tour of this place. So if you haven't seen that, then it's probably worth watching too. And that basically wraps up this video. I hope it helped. I kind of made this video so when people ask me how do I make a space, I can just say, hey, go watch this video I made on it. So I hope it has been helpful for you. If you've got any questions, ask me below. I do my best to answer to most people when I can. So chuck them in there, I'll get back to you. And as ever, I will see you all in the next one.